Ambassador Nikki, Haley, thank you for talking to us today and welcome to Israel.
Oh, it's great to be back in Israel.
And we will talk in this conversation, I hope, about your special connection to Israel, but I would want to open up with the hottest topic on the Israeli agenda these days, and that is the decision of the Trump administration to unveil the Mideast plan, the long-awaited Mideast plan. As someone who was part of the cabinet, part of the National Security Council, can you sort of give your assessment on what the chances of this deal are if the Palestinians are basically not in the game?
Well, I mean, look, it takes two hands to make a clap. So if the Palestinians or the Israelis are not there, it's not going to happen. But what I can tell you is I saw the earlier version of the peace plan, and it's well thought out. It's very thoughtful in the fact that it does not compromise national security for Israel. It improves the quality of life for Palestinians, but overall, it allows an opportunity for peace. And that's what both sides deserve. And so I hope that both sides will give it the opportunity it needs. The one thing I know is President Trump is not going to do anything that the Israelis and Palestinians don't want. The U.S. is coming in as a broker. They're not coming in to mandate anything. And so, you know, look, I have a lot of hope that this can really mean longer peace going forward, but we'll have to see.
You know, in the timing of it, five weeks before the Israeli election, and on the exact day where the Israeli Knesset is debating the immunity, Netanyahu's immunity from prosecution, can you help convince some Israelis who think that this is nothing more than sort of a lifesaver, a political lifesaver for Netanyahu?
Well, you look, they're saying the same thing about Trump in the U.S., and I don't believe either to be true. What I can tell you is they have worked on this plan for so long, and people were saying a year ago, 2 years ago, where's the peace plan? Why haven't you released it? And they were thoughtful in the approach. They took their time. They made sure they talked to everyone to make sure all the bases were covered. So it doesn't matter when the plan would roll out. There would be some people who were saying it was too soon or too late. And so you can't win in that situation. What I can tell you is I know the players that put a lot of time into it, Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, Ambassador Friedman, all of them were intensely involved in this. And so their thought process wasn't let's wait until after the elections, because Israel's now going on their third election. So it's not like we could sit there and wait for those elections to stop. We had to go ahead and get the plan out while we had time to do that.
You know Israel quite well, and it's a land where nothing is in consensus, but I think across the political spectrum in this country, you're viewed as someone who had Israel's back and has Israel's back. And you famously said, you know, the time of Israel bashing in the UN is over, and you acted on that. How does that legacy live on even after your tenure in the UN? Well,
you know, I just had coffee with my friend Ambassador Danny Danone last week, and I check in with him every so often to make sure that there's nothing wrong. I keep telling him if they start to mess with Israel, I'll show back up. But, you know, he said that it's still quiet right now. And so the goal was, when we went in, how do we change the culture? And what we can say is the session on Middle East is no longer an Israel bashing session. It now talks more about the region. We were able to get rid of the UN commander in Lebanon that was not being helpful to Israel. We were able to get out of the Iran deal. We were able to move the embassy, you know, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So there were a lot of really good things that changed the tide. It is up to everyone to continue to do their part to make sure that tide continues to move in the right direction. And I'm going to continue to be loud. I'm going to continue to use my voice if I see something wrong. But Danny Danone has done a great job representing Israel. And I think we've worked too hard to let it fall apart. So we have to keep moving forward.
I guess that's a good point to ask you about your special connection with the country. I must say that I listened to your commencement speech in Clemson University. I listened to you talking about your Indian parents, and I said, well, that first of all, that sounds a lot like Jewish parents.
Yes,
that's for sure. As a starting point, that's for sure it. Where does it come about, the heart of your connection to Israel?
You know, I didn't know a lot about Israel when I came to the UN. And so I always say I stumbled upon my love for Israel. And that the more I learned, the more I loved. And I think it's because I feel a kinship with the Jewish people. They think very much like the Indian community. They, you know, the education and the family and you know, just the way of life is very similar. They raise their children the same way, and you know, we're stubborn and we don't take no for an answer. And so there's so much that is there. But I just appreciate the values. I appreciate the love of freedom. I appreciate the desire to just want to be treated fairly. And so it's a really easy love for me to have of Israel, because I think it's one that every person who wants human dignity should be able to relate to.
Can you tell us what the purpose of your visit now is here in Israel?
Well, I am so proud to be coming to help the Israel Center on Addiction. I will tell you that addiction is too common all over the world, and so it's not just Israel, it's America and everywhere else. And the work that the Israel Center on Addiction does is phenomenal, from the research to the training to the care that it gives to patients. It really matters. You know, what's so important is everyone that you know, someone is affected with that addiction. They may not talk about it, but they have a family member or they have a friend. And this impacts jobs, it impacts the economy, it impacts families. And so to see a center that does such good work, I'm proud to partner with them. And so I'm certainly proud to help them continue to achieve what's really been an amazing success story.
You know, I think that you managed probably to do something very remarkable, which is to emerge from the Trump administration unscathed, and you decided to exit on your own terms, as you call it. You were definitely not fired in a tweet like some other colleagues. You know, your reputation sort of remained intact and was even enhanced by this. How do you explain it? What did you do differently?
I told the president the truth, regardless of the situation. If I thought he was doing something great, I rallied, I worked hard, I helped him get there. And if I thought he was going in a different direction, I told him. And I would say, you know, rather than doing this, I think you should do X. And he would always say, well, how do you see that playing out? And we would have a great discussion. He always listened, he always collaborated, he always made me feel heard. And it was a great working relationship. I loved the job at the UN. I absolutely loved it. The reason that I left really was because I have two parents that my husband and I take care of. They're both in their 80s. My mom has Parkinson's, and our son is graduating from high school, and I wanted to be a part of his college process and the college tours, and you can't do the UN part-time. You have to give it everything you've got, and I needed it to be family first.
The impeachment trial. I have to ask you, someone who's been so privy to foreign relations and to foreign negotiations, do you think he did anything wrong?
No. And I've read the transcript. I mean, you can't look at the transcript of the call that he had with the Ukrainian president and see something wrong. There was no threat. There was no, you have to do this or I won't do that. The money flowed. A conversation happened between two presidents. I mean, the facts are there. You can read the transcript for yourself. There's nothing that went wrong. And so this is partisan politics. I mean, I think honestly, the Democrats have been trying to get rid of the president since the day he was inaugurated. And so we'll see this play out. But what you're also seeing play out is his poll numbers continue to go up the more they do this. And instead, it would be nice just to see them focus on issues and not just be so against the president that is in place now.
So really, when you look at throughout the whole process, everything seems faultless to you. The way that the president and his delegates handle themselves in Ukraine, nothing about it.
Well, there's no perfect situation, right? But if you look at it, if you were a jury looking at a case, you wouldn't find fault. There is no guilt there. And so I think that whether you like the president or not, everyone deserves due process. You have to look at the facts, and it's just not there. So, you know, I'll certainly say the president's style is not my style. But I do know that everything that I have seen and everything I know about him is a genuine commitment to the United States. It's to the people, and he very much wants to deliver on his promises to the American people. You may not like the style in which he does that, but he has delivered on promises.
You write in your book, with all due respect, you say, people have always labeled me with a word that is somehow only negative when applied to women, ambition. So I would want to talk about your ambitions and to ask, are we going to see Haley 2024? Are you planning to be the first female president of the United States?
It's just too soon. It's too soon to think about. You know, I think that it's easy for people to talk about it. It's hard to do. It's hard to run for president of the United States. And a year is a lifetime in politics. So what I have always done is take it a year at a time. And I've always said, whatever I do, be great at it and make sure people remember me for it, and then doors will open. So if it's meant to be, it will. But as of now, you know, I continue to stay busy. I continue to fight for causes I care about, and I continue to be loud. And so I'm not going anywhere. I know I'm too young to stop fighting, and so I'll always be fighting for the things I care about.
And the rumor circulating in Washington about being the VP on the VP ticket in 2020, is there anything to that?
And there's no truth to that. I have great respect for Mike Pence. He is a dear friend. He's been a great vice president to President Trump, and they make a great partnership. And I will be campaigning for both of them. And I've never had a conversation with the president about that. That's just, it's rumors that people want to stir, but there's no truth to that whatsoever.
You know, Israel is having quite a problem in choosing a prime minister, so maybe you want to consider that as well.
And I really
very popular
hope
here.
that something comes together, because I don't want the region to see Israel as vulnerable. And so I hope politically this can go away and we can get back to seeing Israel being strong the way it is. But again, I think these are growing pains. My hope is that Israel comes out of this stronger than they started.
You and every journalist in this country. Ambassador Nikki Haley, thank you so much. If we can set the next interview in November 2024, that would be perfect. Or before that. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.